Hi there, everybody. This is Alec Bojalid, and we are in the San Diego Comic-Con Den of Geek studios, and I'm about to speak with Alexandre Philippe, director of the documentary You Can Call Me Bill, and Katya Echazarreta. You are with Space for Humanity. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about this project. So, Alexandre, one thing I wanted to know off the top is kind of how did this come about? Because, like, infamously, part of the project story is that William Shatner, a beloved actor, has been very choosy about who gets to tell his story. And then how did that come to be you?
Well, it's an interesting story because I had the privilege of working with Legion M on a previous film, Memory: The Origins of Alien. They actually came to Sundance to watch it, and they loved it. They picked it up. Essentially, they purchased the film with Screen Media, and we made a short film about a year or so after that, and stayed in touch. You know, they've become really great friends. And when I had heard that William Shatner was their new spokesperson, I called David Baxter. And it was just one of those kind of catch-up calls and said, well, you know, has there ever been a documentary made about Shatner? And he said exactly what you said. Well, he's been approached by many documentary filmmakers. He's always said no, but we can give it a shot. So I know they pushed pretty hard, and then they pushed hard to the point of essentially, I think Shatner saying, well, fine, I'll meet this Alexander guy and we'll see what that's about. And so we had lunch in Studio City, and I was fully prepared to pitch him the film. But he didn't want to hear it. He kept asking me questions about who I am, what I believe in. You know, it was very sort of philosophical, and I think we connected on a number of fronts. And basically by the end of lunch, it was, when do we start? And I had to scramble after that to get it made.
Katya, can you tell me a little bit about how you entered this saga?
So I was selected by Space for Humanity to be their very first citizen astronaut, and I had the opportunity of going to space. I became the first Mexican woman in space in doing so, and I was able to actually be inspired by William Shatner's experience in space when he comes back and he starts getting so emotional and speaking to the experience. That's the experience that I had going into mine, and what I had in my heart, and what I really just truly hoped that I would feel when I came back as well. So when they reached out to me and approached me with this opportunity of helping him promote this documentary, I absolutely said yes immediately, because I know exactly what it is he's trying to do. I've felt it too. What he feels and that dedication that he feels right now to help others understand that some of us are just doing life all wrong is what I'm feeling in this moment, thanks to that change of perspective as well.
I want to talk a little more about what he did feel in space and coming back, because I remember reading an interview or an excerpt from, I think, his biography, and he speaks about it so strikingly and almost like gut-churningly so that I actually have it here. He says, "It was among the strongest feelings of grief I have ever encountered. The contrast between the vicious coldness of space and the warm nurturing of Earth below me filled me with overwhelming sadness." Katya, is that something that you identified with? Is that kind of what you're referring to?
I think a lot of us don't realize that we don't truly understand the depth of colors until you're able to see them out in space. The blackness of space is a black unlike anything I have ever seen in my entire life. And I think a lot of people think that when you're going to be out in space, you're going to see bright stars. You see no stars. You see deep, deep black. And then you're able to see the planet, and you're able to see that blue thin layer, which forms a part of our atmosphere. And you realize how fragile everything is and how we're not doing absolutely anything to protect it, to help it. And so that grief and that sadness really does come from those thoughts of, what are we doing? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And is it worth it? Because you've seen that blackness and what it's capable of and what it can do to consume you. And it's trying to consume that image in that moment. But the planet is so bright and it's glowing, a blue light that you can feel on your own body. And in that moment, to have light that is being reflected off of your own planet for the first time. That contrast is so beautiful, but also the implications are so serious.
Alexander, when speaking with William for this documentary, how much of the conversation delved into that and his space exploration?
So we have a chapter essentially dedicated to that specifically. The film is told in chapters, and I wanted each chapter to address a theme that means a great deal to him at this particular point in his life, sort of a distillation of everything he's learned over 90 plus years, and what he wants to communicate to future generations. Obviously his care for the environment, for humanity, his concern for where we're going. I mean, all of that really comes across. But without giving it away, we do have a chapter that is dedicated to that. I will say that every single chapter of the film, in one way, shape, or form, talks about death. He talks and thinks about death a lot. I mean, he's very open about the fact that he knows his time is limited. I mean, of course, our time is limited for all of us. But when you're 90 plus years old, he only has so much time to be here. So it's really something he thinks about and talks about a lot. And so I wanted to, in a way, make sure that the film went there. So it's not the film about William Shatner that you would expect. It has a certain amount of darkness to it. It has a weight to it that you wouldn't expect. Of course, there's the light moments. I mean, there's, Shatner is a very, very funny man as well, and that had to be a part of it. Tonally, I think it's a bit of a dance.
And then just from like a pure man-hour perspective, how long did William Shatner speak for this documentary?
That was 3 days. We spent 3 days, and again, I had devised the chapters because each chapter also has a completely distinct look. We shot it in 18,000 square foot soundstage, completely stripped bare to evoke this idea of William Shatner taking off the masks that he's worn over his entire career. But each chapter has a distinct sort of style and look that evokes the theme that is central to that particular chapter that we're about to get into. So we had, morning, afternoon sessions with a major repo in the middle. And that was a 3 day, 3 day intense interviews. But, from the very beginning, the very first morning, he launched into this incredible monologue about the death of his dog when he was a kid, and which was essentially his first exposure experience, with death, and how devastating that was to him. And so that became the prologue to the film.
And then from what I understand, this film is financed in a fairly unique way. What could you tell me about that?
Yeah, so this is what Legion M calls, fan equity financing. They got their fans, the Legion M, to invest in the film, so they get to own shares of the film. I think the minimum was $100. I think some of the platinum, what they call the platinum investors, I think invested up to $100,000. So, there's a huge disparity, but I think we have a total of maybe 1,400 investors. The shares sold out in 4 days. So the plan was to open it up to the public and to Shatner's fans. They never even got a chance to do that because it oversold in 4 days. So that gives you a sense of the enthusiasm that the fans have for this project.
How's your guys' Comic-Con going? And then particularly for Alexander, what's it like coming to Comic-Con for you as the director of The People versus George Lucas?
It's interesting to go from Star Wars to Star Trek in a very different way. In a way, I think People versus George is still, and I will absolutely defend this, it remains a love letter to George. It's a film about the love-hate relationship, obviously, that fans have, that the fans of the original generations have. But yeah, it's really super cool. Last year I got to be in Hall H with Bill.
Well, for me, I have an interesting relationship here with Hall H and Comic-Con specifically, because when I was a college student, I actually went to college right down the street, San Diego City College, before transferring to UCLA. And I was an usher. So I've been an usher for the smaller rooms. Then I got promoted to Ballroom 20. And then I got promoted to Hall H. So I ended my Comic-Con career as a Hall H usher. And I was able to help escort Jason Momoa when he got announced as part of the Justice League. And I don't know why they selected me for that. I am much smaller than him. But to be able to see that and just the tears in everyone's eyes and my own as well. People camp out for days to be able to watch these panels. And I'm getting paid to watch them. Because once you usher everyone in, no one is moving. So your job is pretty much done. And you get to just stand in the back and take everything in and witness everything. And I've been so inspired by them and everything that everyone has been working on and doing. So to know that that's where I started and that I'm now here as a part of this beautiful project is really, really amazing to me.
Cool. I can't believe we're talking to Jason Momoa's personal bodyguard this whole time. You really should have led with that.
I really protected him that day.
Thanks so much, guys. This is Alexander and Katya.
Thank you.
For You Can Call Me Bill. Thank you for stopping by our Den of Geek studio.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.